Hey everybody, it's Brickwaffle again, and today we are going to make some more progress on New Bricktown. You might be able to tell what we're going to do from looking at the hotbar here, but let me show you what I've done since the last time I recorded. I've laid out a lot of roads, and I have put in a couple of minor things. I moved the Botania garden over here, and that was good because it took a while to refill this mana pool. Planted a few trees, used that spring I was talking about in the last video to make a well. I thought that looked pretty nice. And I moved the cotton farm and the tree farm over here and kind of combined them into one thing since we've got I think about 40,000 rubber trees, something on the order of 30,000 saplings, plenty of cotton, probably 30 or 40,000 of that. We just don't need to keep harvesting it this way with two separate farms. So this should be more than sufficient for our needs. And then I moved over the alveary and I built a second one. So that's not a big deal, but over here we've got that stuff, and we moved the carpenter bits and bobs over from the village and planted a couple of forestry trees. And then we've got some signs and floor plans. So we want to move our cart lab over here for playing with the Steve's Carts 2 mod. We've already seen the smeltery in the previous video. Over here we're going to do some alchemy, and by that I mean I'm going to bring over a brewing station and liquid XP network and that sort of thing. And here we use that witch's ring. Remember I told you I was planning on doing something with that, so we used some marble columns and a little bit of fantasy block, which is just some stone and a gold nugget. And then we've got some glowstone here. We're going to move the enchanting room over. And of course we do have a glowstone glass cover on top. So I thought that looked pretty good. Mob spawners. That's what today's project is going to be. So we've got 4 of these set up. We're going to do 4 different mob spawners. We're going to use the same thing for all of them, same pattern. And this time we're going to make them a little bit smaller, a little bit more compact, and only put 1 spawner in each of them. I did some experimenting in a creative world, and it looks like I can get things like blizzes that normally float up to the ceiling and don't want to hit the spikes to actually go towards the spikes by making these rooms a little bit shorter. And then over here, we've got plans for our machine shop, and you can see we've got basalt brick because we started to, and you can't even really tell here, we started to dig out that volcano. And then we also have plans for our power and ME stuff over here. So let me just take a quick tour of the volcano. You can probably see once we get this way that I took a big core out of the center of it. So I used a hammer and went straight down, there's some clouds, straight down here all the way down to the lava pool that feeds this at the bottom, and cored it out a couple of times. We've got plenty of basalt for our projects. So that being said, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. I know there's a lot more decorating and some other buildings to do, but today let's take a look at the mob farm design. So I'm going to show you what we're going to do with all of these. We're going to put wireless receivers in the dead center of each of these rooms, like that, and we're going to code these into different frequencies. Or actually, alternatively, we could code them all on the same frequency and turn all of the machines on and off at the same time. But I think for now we're going to go ahead, since we have 4, and put them in, is that right? There we go. Put them in individually, and then we'll have a control room somewhere else down here where we've got our wireless transmitters. But for now, just to make sure everything's working, we're going to stick these right here. And then we're going to set these all on different frequencies. So we're going to start by going to channel 1001 and 1001. We're going to do this one as 1002. No surprise what we're going to do with the rest of these. I don't think anybody's using the 1000 channels yet, so hopefully this won't be a problem. And I'm not sure if there's a maximum range on this, so even if somebody is using these, it might not matter. Oops, I just did 3 again, didn't I? So we'll do some experimenting. If it turns that these are turning on and off when somebody else is using things on the server, then we can obviously change the numbers. We can pick something a little more obscure. And then the pattern for this, you can see that with the iron spikes, I've enchanted them. You can enchant a stack at a time with an anvil and a book. So we have looting 3 and sharpness 4 on our iron spikes, and we are just going to stick those right here around the center on each of these. Whoop, ow. Yep, that'll do it. Thankfully we have some flux armor, and you can see that that actually did take a little bit of RF off of me. Oh, hate when I do that. And then over here, there we go. And then we're going to do the same pattern for our conveyor belt. So we're going to start, let's see, we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Oh, you know what? I built these all a little too small because we're going to need them to go right all the way to here. So we have the maximum size spawning room. 1, 2, 3, 4. Is that right? Nope, that's actually right. No, it's not. Yep, we're going to need to come out one more on that so that these conveyor belts come all the way to here. And the reason for that is when we spawn, If we have a spawner in the middle, we want it to be able to go out 4 in any direction before it hits the outside edge, or it could potentially spawn outside. So that means I'm going to have to make all of these things one bigger in both directions. I think what I can do then is just come out a little bit, maybe where these are, and make a little less gap between them. That's probably okay because we are going to have an underground collection area down here, so we don't have to be able to have a lot of room in between. So let me do that off camera, and I will get back to you here in just a minute. Alright, and we are back. We've got all of these expanded out by 1, so you can see that there's a pattern of 3 by 6, and these all push towards the center. That is a little bit better than trying to push them all to one edge. It saves me a little bit of space on the spikes, and putting them right here means that mobs can come into them. And before, I ended up having a 2 row at the back, so I had 9 across, 2 deep. That was 18, just so that I could get things like spiders when they fell down onto them. Because these work from the side as well, I don't really need things to fall onto them. I can just push them in here, and anything, no matter what its hitbox, should be killed by that. So this should work pretty well. And because the things spawn roughly by the soul cage, anything that spawns out here should get pulled in. No matter where it lands, you can see that that's working pretty well. And over here in the corners, it's just going to push them along, hit this one, and push them towards the center. So this should work very, very well for our needs. I'm trying to decide what I'm going to use for glass. If we use tier 4 spawners, then the light level doesn't matter, so we could do that. We could put regular glass in. We could also use dark glass, which is another option. But the next thing we want to do is dig down underneath here and put in all of our wireless receivers and our collection mechanisms. So we do need an item collector here underneath this, and we can use the advanced item collectors that can be changed in range. But we really only have to worry about collecting things in a small area that goes out by 1 in any direction and then vertically up by a few so that we can bury this a little bit deeper. That will be pretty nice, so let's go ahead and get started with that. We've got our Ingvar, I keep saying that, imbued pick. So let's see, what makes sense for a good access point over here? We could just have a hatch right here in the middle. We're not going to have to come down here a lot once we get started. And we are going to want to be able to get to the bottom of these, so that's probably all the more we need to do. Let's just come down this way, and how far out do we have to go? So from that corner we need, yeah, there we go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if we got 6 in every direction, we should be good to go. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think that's 6. I don't really want to poke up here, so that's 13, 49, 185. Well, 13, 49, 185. Good, okay. Okay, so we are back. This is just under the center where we were before. I've put some lights up, and I have put in some basalt on the walls, some factory blocks on the floors, and now we just have a few things left to do. So we are going to put a sound muffler under each of these kill chambers. That's going to mark where the center is, and it's also going to keep this farm from being ridiculously noisy. We do want to put wireless transmitters here, but we also want to put our ender chests in, so let's see. That's north, so let's just go ahead and do it this way. 1 there. 1 there, 1 there, and 1 there. And then when we put our advanced item collectors on it, whoops, that's not what we wanted to do. Oh, that's going to be frustrating. Let's see if I can not take out anything else. Perfect. Okay, we're going to put an advanced item collector on top of each of these. And over here as well. And then we want to set all of these to be a height 1, 2, 3, and then we need to go up 2 more, 4, 5. So we're going to keep the X and Y at 2 and set the radius to 5, Z radius to 5 rather. And this one as well. And then we can put our wireless transmitters wherever we want. So we're going to put these right next to these chests. We'll be able to easily come down here and turn off the collection of any of these stations. Now, of course, I don't remember which one was 1 and so on, so let's come up here real quick. That is 2 and 3. And that means this is 4. Oops, did that last time. And this is 1. And I don't know why I did that. And then we just need to put in some levers here. Perfect. And we should be able to go see which of these are turned on. So let's just turn on 2. You can see that that lights up. Come up here. 2 is lit up. Perfect. So that should be everything we need to power that. Let's just What do we have that we don't care about right now? Surely I've got something. Let's throw some wood ash down. That'll be good. Okay, that looks like that ended up in the chest and on the network. So these chests are all connected in to our ME network, which we're going to move down here in a little bit. But that should be good. So all we need to do is make a carpenter's hatch here and put a nice little trapdoor in the floor that looks good. And then, of course, we need to actually build the rest of this. And since it's nighttime, it's probably pretty hard to see. So let me go ahead and go back, sleep, and I will come back here. Alright, we are back. We're headed over to the spawners with our carpenter's hatch and our nether bricks that we're going to use to build out the rest of the shape of this. Not sure exactly what I'm going to use for the carpenter's hatch yet. Want it to stand out so that people know it's a hatch. Or maybe we don't. I don't know. Let's see. Let's face north just because that seems to be as good a direction as any, and we'll put it right there. And we'll figure out what color to put that in later. So for now, let's use the chisel to make these into brown nether bricks, and then make these into blue nether bricks, and make these into obsidian nether bricks, and these into the stone nether bricks. And that should give us a good starting point. Nope, don't need that. So we know we need this thing to come up by a certain height, so we really only need it to come up 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we'll have a ceiling above that. It really only has to be 4 high. So we are going to have a ceiling. Let's go ahead and cap that across here. And then this way. And this will give us our frame that we can use to potentially glass in the rest of it. Depends on how much glass we want to use and how much nether brick and all that good stuff. We of course could use something like vibrant quartz glass that glows if we wanted to be able to see in here really well. That does mean we'd have to only ever use tier 4 spawners. But with Soul Stealer 5, tier 4 spawners really aren't that bad. It's probably the best thing to do anyway. And that lets us do some other things like use them in dimensions they're not supposed to be in that we probably want to do anyway. So let's bring this nether brick up as well. We're going to repeat this pattern all the way across. Whoops. And that's why we don't set the X and Y. Oh, you know what? I set all those things wrong, didn't I? Y is vertical in Minecraft, and I set all of the Z's up higher than I should have instead of the Y's, so we're going to have to go back and set those. But now that I know what I'm talking about, that is in fact why we wanted to do that. We didn't want things that were just thrown down up here anywhere along the way, or if somebody dropped something, for it to get sucked up and put into the network automatically. Although that could be amusing. Anybody that's dropping things near the mob spawner would just lose them. That would make building a lot more of a pain, and let's go ahead and do that before I forget that I need to swap those all around. And I'm sure some of you were screaming at the camera earlier, it's Y, not Z. So, yeah, there we go. This is going to make this a lot better. Okay, there we go. Hop back out of here, and let's do these last two. And I know I say this a lot, but it's really, really, really nice to be able to fly in survival when you're building. It just makes things so much easier. One more up here. Oops, I keep doing that. And we'll go get him in just a second. And this is getting to be pretty narrow, so we have a little tiny alley that lets us get around in here. That's because I miscounted when I put those first ones in, but that's alright, it actually works. This would be so noisy with all the different mob spawners going if it weren't for those sound mufflers too, so that's another nice thing. Thanks to Zoom of Void, I watched one of his videos where he put those in by his chicken and cow farms, and I thought, oh, that's going to be perfect for what we need as well. Okay, almost done here. And this way. Now that these are framed out, I kind of like the look of it, and I think I am going to go with some glass here instead of just walling this all off, especially from the inside here. Gosh, this would be really terrifying if you were in here and it was just all walls. It'd be, well, it'd be boring for one thing. We could leave this top open. Well, not open, but we could cap it with glass or with more of this stone, but since we only have 43 nether brick left, I think what we're going to do is just throw that all on the network. And what I usually like to do before I do that is put this all back so that it stacks up nicely. So we'll just do that real quick. especially because this doesn't take any durability or energy or anything like that. And then we can just open up our network pouch and throw that onto our ME network. So network pouch, that's actually not an item on its own, but we do have an ender chest that's pumping in through an import bus. So we can just use that bag to put anything we want back in our ME network from anywhere we are in the world. If we could draw out that way, that would be the best thing ever, but this is still pretty convenient. So we are almost done. I'm going to go get some glass. I'm going to decide what color I want to make that hatch. I'm going to put the rest of that in, and then I'm going to put some soul shards over there. So we should have mobs spawning back into the ME network by the end of this video. Alright, and it is time for the big reveal. If we go up through this hatch, we used one of the redstone with skulls patterns, which doesn't really look like skulls to me, but that's alright, it still looks pretty obvious. We've got clear glass from Tinker's Construct on the sides and dark glass on the top, and we have all of our mob spawners placed, so let's go down and turn these on and make sure that everything is working the way we expect it to. So let's see, if we turn that one on, let's go just take a look at the first one. Whoops, if we can get out of here. We are seeing some blazes, and they are being captured by those conveyor belts put into the spikes. Awesome. Let's go turn the blue one on, which is 103. That should be blizzes. If I can get out of here, that'd be great. And again, I just saw some things die. Let's try it one more time. There they go. Awesome. And let's see, this one on the brown should be creepers, I believe. Yep. And then we need one more over here, which should be our basic skeletons. That's a tier 5 spawner, so that should be pretty freaking fast. Turn that on one more time. Yep, there we go. We got some skeletons. Now that is a little bit of an issue. There could be one that stands up on the spawner and doesn't get moved. We could put another block on top of that to prevent that from happening. Maybe we'll put a half slab in there. Looks like it does sort itself out after a while. Those little floating heads that spawn off skeletons and zombies can be a bit of a pain. Wow, that is really fast. But I think there is a cap on how many of these spawned from this particular spawner can be up at one time. I don't know if the skulls count, but if that becomes an issue, we can always convert this. We actually have plenty of bones and arrows and all that good stuff right now, but this is just an easy way to get a few more of those on the network. I'm going to disable it until we figure out what to do with those little crawling head things. Maybe we'll just leave that for another day. But for now, this is all we're going to do, so let's see. I think, yeah, we'll just leave the rest of that going. We should be able to check the network when we get back up to the chalet. And our next big project is probably going to be to move the network down here. That's going to be quite the project. So you can look forward to that in the next video, I believe. Power and ME coming out here. Let's go do one last verification. Let's make sure that everything is showing up where we think it should. So we should, at that spawn rate, be able to see blaze rods, blizz rods, and gunpowder all coming in here. Let's check gunpowder first. Huh. Oh, you know what? I don't have a chunk loader over there, so that's probably going to be all turned off at the moment until I get that in place as well. So let's make a dimensional anchor. Yeah, it doesn't look like any of those are coming in place. Dimensional anchors. Hey, there's even one already on the network. So let's put that in, then we'll make sure that these things are running all the time as long as the chunks are loaded, because they are at least tier 4. Man, that should have been right on the edge. It must have just been on the very, very edge of not being loaded. But we can solve that problem pretty easily. Yep, looks like they're spawning here again. Drop down in here. And we'll put that right in the bottom. And we only need this to go, let's see, what chunk are we in? 8411 by 8411, by 8410. 8310 rather. Okay, so we better just put this up one more and set that to 3 by 3. So now that should be working. And let's actually just make sure that all these items are getting collected. We should be able to see them go through the chest. Yep, look at that. And they're all going into the same chest, which is why you saw some different things like gunpowder and blizz rods and all that stuff going in together. One thing we might want to do at some point is put some filters on that to reject the actual mob skulls. We do have a bunch of those from the beheaded mod. They're nice, but they're really not that practical, so we might just start discarding those. Although they only take up one spot on the ME network unless we get more than 64k worth, so I don't think that's going to be as big of a deal. Let's check this one more time. We should be able to see gunpowder coming in now. Oops, 148986. There it goes. That's definitely coming in. And let's check the blizz rods, which are a little bit less common. 23267 should still be going in though. Oh, the 23268. Okay, good. And let's try blaze rods. 11184. And we've got some blaze powder as well. We've got one of those. I wonder if those are getting backed up in our ME terminal. Let's go take a look at that real quick. I just want to make sure everything is working the way we thought it would. So that ender chest, okay, that ender chest is going into here. There, you can see things going in there, blaze rods included. Okay, so I believe that everything is working correctly. We're going to call that the end of the video, and you can see we've got a lot more stuff to move down here. We got to move our cactus farm, which at the moment is probably not going to do anything. And we do need to also fill in this gap from the old mob farm. We do have a magnum torch, so nothing should come into our base. We can do that safely in another video. And then, of course, we have all of this machinery as well still, and some of our liquid storage. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy it, please do leave a like. If you really enjoyed it, then please subscribe. And as always, I've been Brick Waffle. Thank you for watching.